been meaning for a while to do a blurb on LED lights, and I've sort of been looking into it a little bit, although I'm not as good as I could be on the subject. Now, there's LEDs and there's LEDs. What apparently is going on, when they manufacture LEDs, they bang them out in a big factory, of course, but after they've been obviously made, they go through a tester, and the tester will test the brightness of the LED. Now, all these are coming out the same line, the same production method, and all that. But when they're tested, some of them are sort of brighter, and some of them are darker. And basically, what happens is they separate them into different tubs according to their brightness level. And then some, manufacturers of LED torches and particularly LED strip lighting will then buy those tubs. Now, because of the brightness levels, those that aren't very bright sell cheaper, and those that are brighter sell dearer. But you've got to remember, they've all come off of the same line with the same method of production. Just it so turns out some are brighter than others, and the least bright ones are sold cheaper, and the brighter ones are sold dearer. And so what happens is, if you go to some place to buy LED strip lighting, say a electronic supply joint that just sells electronics and circuitry and all transformers, components, all that sort of thing, kits for the electronics enthusiast, and you see one and it's sort of dear enough, and then you look online and you find one that's like half the price. There's a reason for that. The one online that's cheap uses all the rubbish ones that don't produce much light. Storefronts that are, reasonably renowned places will have the better ones, the brighter ones. And that's one thing you've got to watch out for. The other thing is your spread. And this is what has led some people astray quite a bit in regards to the non-LED lights, those 12-volt halogens. And those little ones they've got them set up in the roof, and actually the globe isn't like below the ceiling, it's like up inside the ceiling. And you'll see these people with not just sort of one in a kitchen or a room, they'll have like a dozen of them set into the ceiling. Those halogen ones, although they're 12 volt, they are 50 watts each. They use so much power, it is not funny. There are LED variants of those which are 6 watts and super duper bright, whereas your halogen ones, your old school, ones with like a proper little filament and all that, they're 50 watts. Now you've got to remember that the old style incandescent globe that they've banned here in Australia, and they're sort of, probably California might have gone the same way, but they're trying to flatten them in America as well. They were 60 watts, and they'd light up the whole room, and yet you get these little tiny halogens, and they're only 50 watts. They are 50 watts, but you need 8 of them, 12 of them to light up a room. Just because they're 12 volt, don't go for those, but you may want to think about the LED variants. But this brings me to another topic, and that is the topic of spread. Now, with those ones set in the ceiling, they don't have much width. Like, they might cover, I don't know, probably 20 degrees, 25 degrees width. Like the actual beam as it comes down can be varying widths. And if you look in electronics catalogues, you'll notice that they'll sell one LED light, and it just looks like, okay, there's that one, and you think, well, that's it, that's a 12-volt LED light, that's fine. And then you start looking at the catalogue numbers underneath, and you hang on a minute, they got like 2 or 3 of these. And you think, well, what's the difference here? They look identical. You go into the shop, you look at this catalogue number, looks identical from the catalogue number that was next under it. But you have a little look at what's written beside them all, and you realise something. One will have a 15-degree spread, another one will have a 30-degree spread, another one may even have a 45-degree spread. And what that is it's the lens inside the light and the way not so much the way the LEDs are assembled in it, like the way the LEDs are made so much, but more so the plastic lens in front of the LEDs gives you a certain light spread. So keep that in mind, because some of these little ones that you might fit in the ceiling, they might not have a real wide spread, and that's the reason why people, when they had the halogen ones, used to have like 8 or 10 or 12 of them in a room, was because they were very bright, but the spread wasn't a very big angle. But having said that, you know, the LED variants are only 6 watts, and they give you, you know, just as much light as the halogen ones did. They run around, you know, 500 lumens for like a $30 one, $25 one. This is Australian prices. Run it like $20 one will be like 450 lumens. I didn't realise they were actually so bright, the LED variants, because I got a little house light, you'll see the LED motion light. I've made a video on it very early on, and that was only like 18 lumens, and it's good enough to see the door and unlock the door, but it doesn't, you know, that's one of the big things you've got to keep your eye on, is the amount of lumens, which is your light output, to your watts. And you can go and get some really quite crappy lights from automotive stores, and I think my old man's, he's got one in the caravan, I think it's like 21 watts, and the output of light is just hopeless comparative to the wattage. Yet, you know, there's some brands that are good and some brands that are crap. And basically it's one of these things where you get what you pay for. And, you know, you pay a bit, you'll get good ones. But make sure you keep in mind about this angle thing. You don't want to go and get one that's a 45-degree width one and think, oh, this is great, you know, in this room. And you think, I should get some more. I bought one of these, they're fantastic, I should go get some more. Run in the store, pick up something off the shelf that looks the same, get it home and it's crap because it's only got a very small width of light spread because of the lens in it. So keep your eye on those catalogue numbers and, you know, the stuff in the catalogue to do with the spread of the width. But it's like a lot of these sort of things. You get something cheap off the internet. You get something, you know, it's liable to be pretty crap. You get something from an automotive store that sells a lot of Chinese junk. It may also be sort of crap comparative to the watts it draws. And you go to a specialist electronic stores that sells individual solar panels, not just junky ones, but the ones with the actual, you know, reasonably hard front on them, and the aluminium edging around it to mount it properly on little mounts and all that. Those sort of electronic stores that sell that sell kits that you make yourself, that sell transformers and every fitting you could dream of. Those places, the LED lights they'll have there will actually be quite good LED lights. And there's a brand you should be watching for, and that brand is called Cree. C-R-E-E. Now these are absolutely top of the line, and if you get those, you're not likely to have any problems with them. But try and compare your lumens to your watts, and you know, keep in mind the width of spread of the light and all that. You know, and if it's a real issue, ask them if they take returns. Go and test the light. Don't slobber it up with solder or burn the wires. Just test the bare wires onto a battery late at night when it's dark, or turn the lights off in your house or whatever, and test it out with the battery and see what you reckon of it. And if you reckon it's a piece of crap, keep your receipt, take it back. If you reckon it's good, well, you might want to fit out, you know, your house with them. It just you know, see how you go with them. But I got some that are super low consumption, and they got very crap light. They're only 4 LEDs each, and they're only small, but they're completely waterproof. Not that I really needed that, but I can get 2 of those, so I've got a total of 8 LEDs. You know, and I can do stuff with the winter. with them, and never worry about battery levels because they're so super efficient. You can't see very much, generally speaking, but I've got two directly above me bed, and I can sit on me bed, lay on me bed, and read the fine print of a contract. It's very clear. I read books on me bed in winter with these 8 LEDs burning above me, and I can read the page perfectly without mucking my eyes up, without squinting, none of that. But they're super efficient at the same time, so they really are the ants' pants in efficiency. Yes, the colour of them is a bit different. Like if you ever experience changing from incandescent lighting to fluorescent, it has a sort of bit of a different tinge. You get the same thing with LED lights. One other thing, beware of using LED. Your eyes might feel a bit strange to it, but they'll get used to it. But beware of using LED lights. When you first use LED lights and your eyes are adjusting to them, be careful about waving too much stainless steel cookware, chrome, mirrors, things like that, because you might get a bit of a dazzle, and it's not too good to get a dazzle. A lot of LED lights, they recommend not to look at them directly, and the really old LED lights, I had some way back, and they had a really quite an obvious blue tinge to them, and if you pointed it in someone's eye, you pointed it in your own eye, it would literally hurt. You'd feel your eye hurting. But of course the technology's got better. But all the same, they're not recommended that you look directly into them, and you'll often see warnings of that in any little bits of paper that come with the LED lights. Some LED lanterns, and they might have a little tiny manual or whatever. You'll see that they recommend not to look directly into LED lights. Although I occasionally do, but I think it's one of these things. The older technology ones, it was dangerous to look into them, and now, while they don't recommend looking into them, they're not as bad as they used to be, because we've moved past the ones with the strange blue tinge that would literally make your eye hurt. But yeah, that's a bit on LED lights that I've sort of should have probably done a long time ago.